Welcome to the Open Jaw Pink Couch. I'm very, very pleased to have Ian Patterson, MSC Cruises. Of course, everybody knows who you are.
Maybe.
I think so.
Few.
And I think of you way back in the days of Conquest, and MSC came along. It was like an idea, maybe 20-ish years ago. Look at MSC now. You're the head of it in Canada. MSC growing by leaps and bounds, so many ships, so much product, private islands. It even has a luxury division. You have your offices in Canada. You have a French, wow, Ian, good for you. How does it feel? Tell me, how does it feel to be
How
head
does
of
it
this?
really feel?
Yeah, to be head of this empire.
Well,
Cruising empire.
We have a great team. We have a great team of about 37 people in Toronto and across the country. Plus, in other markets, we have people who are dedicated to the Canadian business. So we're up to about 70 people now.
Unbelievable.
When I started, we had 3. So I was always told by our executive chairman, be careful what you ask for. And with MSC Cruises especially, be careful what you ask for because you usually get it.
Oh, interesting.
That's allowed us to do this growth in many different markets across the country.
So what is it that has allowed the support for Canada in this way? Is it that there's a lot of belief in you, Ian Patterson? Is it that, Italy sees Canada as a great source market? Where does the decision-making come from?
Well, of course, headquartered now in Geneva.
Okay, right, Geneva, yeah.
And when we opened up the office, it was like we think globally but act locally. And we have over 60 offices around the world. So it's a natural progression for corporate to open up an office in Canada. And we did that just before COVID, which was very interesting. But we've had continued success based on the acceptance of our brand in Canada.
Yeah.
The fact that we are a European brand, the fact that we have multiple languages, that resonates very well with the Canadian travel agents and the Canadian consumer.
So there's an affinity to the product.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Canadians are curious travelers. They like to go all over the world. We have ships all over the world. Of course, we're number 1 in Europe. We're number 1 in South Africa. Number 1 in South America. We did have a ship in Dubai, but we were number 1 there.
That was fascinating. I'm just going to do a small little segue here. When we read that the Euribia came through the Strait of Hormuz, it's like, yes! It's like, oh my God, nerve-wracking. Wow.
Yes, I think it's more nerve-wracking for the people over there.
Yeah.
But certainly she's on her way back, and she'll start sailing May 16th. And so we're delighted to have her back in the active fleet.
Sure you are.
And everybody is safe. Crew and guests who are on board, so we
My
move
goodness. What an interesting time we're living in, right? You would never think that a cruise ship would be stuck in the middle of this type of geopolitical situation and not be able to get back home. But enough about that. I'm going to ask you, we're going to get down to brass tacks. You tell me quite regularly that you feel travel advisors are not leveraging the cruising opportunity to the degree that they can. So they're not necessarily managing the sale, and some of the sales go direct, whereas you feel there's an opportunity. How do they do that? What's being missed?
Well, if I backtrack a little bit, I think there's an opportunity to grow what is really a very small market in Canada. Only 1 million cruisers. So maybe 1.2 this in 2026. That's 3% of the Canadian population. It's a huge opportunity. If you think of everybody who has historically gone to lie on the beach, and there's some independent travel and so on and so forth. But I think the opportunity is in cruise. And all brands see it, especially us. We see when we're looking at ships now coming out in 2030, 31, 32, we're looking forward to see where the market is going to take us. And Canada has grown for us exponentially over the last 4 or 5 years. We're excited about the new ships that are coming. We're excited about some of the redeployment for sailings that will really resonate well with the Canadian market.
But so how does the advisor leverage that then? Where do they grab hold of the opportunity? Because I see what you're saying, it's only 3%, it's huge. Years ago, they used to say that, the biggest competitor for a cruise line is land all-inclusives, not another cruise line.
Nothing.
Is that
that's
still the case?
That's still the case. If we look at the available commission that is available on what you would get from a cruise rather from land, it's much higher than it is on cruise. We as a brand, MSC Cruises, we pay commission on all the ancillary extras. So buy a spa package, drink package, shore excursions, which are always big. Anything like that, we pay commission on to the travel agents. And we feel that that opportunity is specifically being missed. And in talking to, I was with many travel agents last week on a conference, and that resonated well with them. That this is a business for them.
Right.
It's not a hobby; it's a business, and they're in the business of making money.
Yes, they are.
And we provide commission on all those additional extras. And of course, with the advent of air now in the Canadian market that we've reintroduced,
Which is brilliant.
Well, you got to fly to get to a ship.
Yeah. Got to fly to get to a ship. Speaking of which, I want to talk about home porting in the Caribbean versus home porting in the U.S. Is that decision being made because you're seeing maybe a dip in people being willing to fly to the U.S. and board your ships out of the U.S.? What is the rationale behind home porting in the Caribbean? It's a really interesting strategy.
Well, first of all, I'm not too sure there's been a drop off of cruisers going to the U.S.
Okay.
We've all read the reports about the number of cross-border overnight stays coming back from land and coming back from air. That may be the case, but if we look at our numbers on the cruise side, we're in a very healthy spot there in Canada with the ships that we have both in Miami, in Port Canaveral, in Galveston. We'll have a ship in Alaska, of course. MSC Poesía will be in Alaska for this summer, sitting out of Seattle.
MSC Poesía.
Well, refurbished. Yes.
Yes.
I would say that
I'm just reiterating what I read.
Yes. She didn't need to be refurbished.
Oh, okay.
What we've done is we've updated her to include MSC Yacht Club. So now we are
Which is very popular.
We're retrofitting many of the ships that didn't have the ability to have MSC Yacht Club to have. So all Musica class by the end of 27 will have MSC Yacht Club. But to the point of home porting in the Caribbean, for quite some time we've had a ship in Martinique and Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
But last year we were faced with, well, what sort of messaging could we have for the Canadian cruiser and for the Canadian travel agent? And Martinique took off. And to my point earlier about there's about the commission and so on and so forth. This past winter, so the winter that's just finished, that MSC Virtuoso finished in the end of March, we were selling it at a 40% premium over a Caribbean cruise. That's 40% more commission.
Wow.
Plus, Canadians were buying air. But last minute air to Martinique for this past winter was $2,000 per person, but they were buying it. So I think we need to make sure that we don't put our own wallet in someone else's mind and what someone is willing to spend. So we've looked forward, and for next winter we've gone and blocked our own seats into Martinique and Guadeloupe. And then, of course, we announced that we're bringing world class. So MSC World Europa will be in Martinique, Guadeloupe, starting in December of this year. We're super excited about that.
Now, is there more of an attraction to the French-speaking market for those particular destinations?
Historically, yes, but most recently, like another airline announced this week that they're flying on a Saturday from Toronto to Martinique. So there's multiple airlines actually flying from Toronto now to Martinique and Guadeloupe. So the Antilles, the French Antilles Islands, have started to resonate also in the English market as well, not just the French market. So we're excited
many
about that.
innovations. I find when a company starts innovating in all these different directions, sometimes it's a bit of a risk because it won't always work. And yet these innovations are working. So it's interesting. Are you part of the discussions to say, hey, why don't we try Martinique? Do you get involved in that level?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually about what can Canada do and in order to produce what we would call the lower berths. and from lower berths you get revenue. And how do we see Canada participating in that?
Right.
And we're expected to be one of the top 2 or 3 players for that ship for this winter.
Fascinating.
So we have to look up how many air seats do we need in order to fulfill what we need to do, and we've done that. And the air, if the air is selling at $1,400-$1,500 per person, that's $150 in commission to a travel agent just on the air. So we're excited about World Europa, World Class. So her sister ship, of course, World America is out of Miami, and we have World Atlantic coming in next winter out of Port Canaveral, and then another World Class, World Asia, comes in December of this year.
All these ships. I mean, I was ships. Not just you, but in general, cruising is building, and I forget how much the number was. I ran an article about huge growth. Right? Is there enough? I mean, you're saying in Canada, okay, we're underperforming, but in general, are there enough passengers for all these ships? When do we reach, saturation?
I think we're a long way from even having that discussion.
Okay.
The global cruise market is not that large either. So if you look at the capacity that we have introduced as an industry and the capacity that we've introduced as a brand, we're very bullish on the new to cruise. Everybody is.
Younger people, younger cruisers.
Our demographic is getting younger and younger every year. When I started 40 years ago as a travel agent, we always thought that you had to be 65 plus,
right,
in order to get on a cruise, and now it's mid-40s is the average age of a cruiser. The type of cruisers that we are getting on board are different. Even in the Canadian market, we're pleasantly surprised by this past winter the number of Canadians who took shorter cruises, which historically has not been the case, and that would go against the norm.
Actually, yeah.
An airline doesn't, or an air ticket doesn't know if it's going for 3 or 4 days or 7 days, and it's usually the same price. But there was much more activity on the minis, as we call them, the 3 and 4 night cruises.
That's surprising because Canadians tend to stay longer.
Not this past winter. It was minus 40 every day. It felt like it was minus 40 every day.
Terrible.
And people were taking multiple trips.
Yeah.
But just to finish the thought on the deployment, we have a beautiful world-class ship that is coming to Martinique, and then we're also introducing a ship in the Dominican Republic in La Romana.
Yes.
And that is in our market, that's been designed really for new to cruise. And again, we're going to package that. So it includes air from Toronto, transfers, cruise, transfers back home.
So let's bring Catalina Island into that.
And Catalina Island, of course.
Because private islands are huge. It's such a big trend, and you guys are riding it. You're riding it hard. Can I say that on camera?
That's your camera.
So go ahead.
So being away last week, we had announcements on multiple different destinations. So we had Catalina Island, we had Freeport and MSC Club there. We had, and we were able to see last week, it was beautiful to see how Little Key has become Sandy Key.
Key, yeah.
She will open in 2028. And just being over there over the past year and a half and seeing how she's developed is very exciting. So private destinations where guests can get the MSC experience at sea, but also on land. I think that's a trend that is really going to continue.
And in general, I think it's such a brilliant idea because, of course, if you're on a cruise ship, you're surrounded by ocean, but you can't necessarily get into the ocean. So you need to have a land destination, a private island or similar in order to experience the beach, which is a big part of, cruising in the Caribbean. You want to be on a beach.
Beach days are probably one of the most popular days with us. And we try and find the right experience. So the experience at Ocean Cay is very different than maybe what you would find somewhere else. But we're trying to develop product that will appeal to everybody. Ocean Cay has been our backstop now for a number of years, and we're delighted with the way that she's progressed. I'd seen her last week. From when I first saw her, it was like my goodness me. But we've stayed true to the vision of the family. The foundation's pavilion is there. It was very interesting seeing the travel agents go in and find out more about what our foundation does, about our work with the super coral and so on and so forth to replenish the oceans.
Right. Yes.
That's something that
it's
is
a huge part of MSC sustainability. I was always surprised to hear some of your scientists, I call them scientists on the ships, give those lectures. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and I think we all would love to do more. As certainly as an industry, we love to do more. I think as individuals, we all want to do more.
And we're recording this on Earth Day. Sorry for the interruption, but it is Earth Day, so it's a perfect topic.
Perfect topic. So we're excited about the continual evolution of that we see at Ocean Key.
Ian, before we close out, I always like your sort of philosophy, your approach to the world, to everything that's going on in it. It's a tough time for advisors. There's a lot of anxiety in the marketplace. Their clients get worried, some cartel shot somebody, there's Cuba got closed down, flights are being canceled, geopolitical situation is tense. You always seem to have a perspective, I find, on issues that are useful and helpful. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to talk to the advisors a little bit about how you see what's going on in the marketplace.
Well, specific issues aside,
Yes.
I've been in the travel business for 40 years. And
Not
40. And started as a travel agent, retail travel agent. And not that I've seen everything, but I've seen a lot. And many of us who have been in the industry as long as I have, you of course, you just knew, I think have the same perspective. We've seen a lot. Canadian consumers are very resourceful. And if I look back after 9/11, the Canadians were the first ones to get on planes.
Okay.
The first ones to get on planes. And we had, in the industry that year, it was a bumper year for Canadians to travel. And Canadian travel agents are very resilient.
They are.
And you will find the travel agents that are finding ways to ensure that their guests, their customers are not just taken care of, but that they feel that someone's looking out for them. Canadian travel agents do that. They've always done that. Mm-hmm. And it's just a byproduct of, it's a symbiotic relationship between the customer and the travel agent. And I think that strengthens in times of strife rather than weakens. I think it strengthens. And, I've been known to say that the Canadian Second Amendment is the right to travel. And it is. We travel globally. Mm-hmm. And I think that will continue. And I think it's important for the travel agents that maybe are, not as, have not experienced some of these global events, to know that it will be okay.
It will be okay.
It is okay. And I encourage travel agents to continue to engage their guests, to continue to engage suppliers, find out what's new, find out what suppliers are doing to meet the change of habits or new demands. Like I'd say, for example, the mini cruises was born out of the weather that we experienced, and the fact that grew so much over the winter. So I'm pragmatic as much as optimistic, but I do feel that the industry is in a good place in general, in cruise specifically, and I encourage travel agents to engage both suppliers, such as MSC Cruises, as well as their customer base, because the customers are looking at traveling.
Yeah. And this too shall pass.
Until the next one,
the next one. Oh God! La la la.
But that's just the way of the world.
It's just the way of the world. I know. You're right. You're right. I'm always looking for, a black and white solution. Okay, that's over now. Everything's going to be great. The sun will be shining. Commissions will be back to what they were back in the 70s.
It's all about
not like
commission.
that.
It's all about putting commission in the travel agent's hands.
Okay.
And we want to do it because it helps our business.
Right.
And we are engaging more travel agents more than ever. We're trying to find the right products that will engage with them and also engage with the customer, and put it in front of them. And that's why we've been so successful since we opened up the office in May 1st, 2019. My goodness.
Oh my goodness,
me.
I remember going for that.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
No, it doesn't.
No, not at all. Amazing. Ian, as always, dziękuję bardzo.
Nie ma za co. Thank you very much.